Finally, when the female student's leg was fully healed, Peter no longer felt weird about eating the leg in front of him. The first bite was the hardest, but once he got the juicy taste of flesh into his mouth, he couldn't stop. He continued until almost nothing was left but the bone. Quest update: 3 of 7 pieces of human flesh have been consumed by ghoul Peter Chuck. Once again, the energy surged through Quinn's body, but he knew it wasn't him getting stronger, but Peter instead. Maybe we should just take the easy way? Quinn thought for a brief moment, but quickly changed his mind. They took off the blindfold from the girl, and then Fex started to use his influence skill. His red eyes glowed, and so did the females he was looking at. She appeared dazed, as if she was unaware of anything around her, as if she was asleep, but with her eyes open. Fex gave simple instructions of what happened that night. He was sure not to overcomplicate things. The last thing he mentioned was telling her to sleep for another hour. While one of them watched the hallways for any oncoming students, the other would carry them and put them in a place where it would be a while before a student spotted them. Certain sections of the library, just outside the staircase on the top floors, and so on. After they finished doing everything they needed to do, they left Fex in his room on his own. The day had arrived, and Peter wasn't feeling hungry this morning, as he had eaten a meal last night. But that still didn't mean there wasn't a list of jobs they needed to do, because Duke was hot on their heels. They needed to convince him that somehow Peter was learning the ability books handed to him. So the 3 decided to once again split up for the morning. Vorden had memorized the students who had the regenerative ability, while Peter and Quinn had decided to pay a little visit upstairs to the VIP area. "Long time no see," Logan greeted. "It looks like you brought a friend with you as well this time." Once he sat down, Quinn started to explain what he wished Logan to do. However, this time, Quinn was afraid Logan would decline. But without saying anything, he put on his metallic glove and got to work on the watch while it was still in Peter's hand. After a few minutes, he sat back in his chair. "All done for you," he said. Now onto the watch, the number 2 was permanently displayed. "If we want to come back and increase the number, are you okay with that, Logan?" "I thought you might ask something like that, so I already did it for you," Logan said. "If you twist the top of the watch, then the numbers will change, going from 1 up to 6. So you will be able to fool anyone into thinking you have a high ability. If you ever need any help, Logan, feel free to ask me." With that said, it was almost time for the combat classes to begin, and the 2 of them had to leave. As they left the room, Logan quickly booted up his computer and started typing away until he suddenly stopped. "If I do this, he will probably never trust me again. It was nice speaking to a person for once, rather than a machine," Logan said. "But at the same time, I can tell you are hiding things from me, and I can only help you if I know more." "Recording device activated," the computer system said. It was time for the 2 to split up. Peter would head to the elemental class with Vorden, while Quinn would head to his normal weapons class. During the start of the lesson, they continued to go through the kicks that had been done the other day. Quinn worked on perfecting them, while in his head imagining the feeling of blood swiping going through his legs. It was too bad his mind had been preoccupied with other things. Otherwise, Quinn would have loved to test it out right now. While practicing, he noticed once again that Fex was standing by his own. Seeing this, Quinn decided to approach Fex. "Hey, do you want to spar?" Quinn asked. Fex got up from the floor and looked around him, noticing that there was only one person, Quinn, who was speaking to him. "Who, me?" Fex asked, tilting his head a bit. Quinn nodded. "Maybe I can use my full strength against you this time." "Yeah, right. But if you insist on an arse-kicking, then I'll be happy to give you one," Fex replied with a smile. Fex was a good fighter, and Quinn was hoping to learn from him. If in the future he did become his enemy, it would be useful to learn how not only he fought, but how others fought as well. The 2 of them sparred using the kicking techniques only, and Leo also noticed that Fex could perform the kicks quite well. It seemed like he was performing them badly before just because he didn't want to. Still, the 2 of them knew not to show their true strength or speed, otherwise the others around them would start to get suspicious. While Layla and Aaron were practicing their kicks against each other, Layla noticed Aaron was incredibly distracted and was constantly looking over where Quinn and Fex were. She was never interested in Quinn before, even after learning he was a vampire, so it had to mean she was looking at Fex instead. After last night, she tried to repeat the movements while she was under control multiple times, but they just weren't right. She wanted to feel them one more time. She felt like she was close, but something was just missing. But as she looked at Fex's face, it filled her with disgust. She would never allow herself to be controlled by another person. In another training hall, the elemental class was taking place again. Vorden and Peter did their usual thing, keeping their distance from one another, but at the same time not too far. So far, the whole lesson had passed without anything happening, and it was only in the last part that the same men that approached Peter the other day had approached him once again. "So, Peter, I see you finally reached the level 2 Earth ability, but your progress is a little slow, don't you think? The Duke wants to make sure that you progress as fast as possible, and the easiest way of doing that is through a practical assessment." Although Vorden wasn't close enough to hear what they were saying, he was able to tell they were in some sort of trouble just from the look on Peter's face. Then, when he saw them walking off in a certain direction and clearing a space around the two of them, Vorden knew what was happening. They wanted to test his abilities, while Peter had no abilities. In one of the corners of the room, Peter had been taken by Bones, a tall, skinny student who also had two other students by his side. They each formed a triangle-like position, with Bones in front of Peter, while the other two stood behind him. "All right, Peter, it's time to see what you got," Bones said. However, Peter was far too nervous to hear Bones properly and was thinking about what to do to get out of this mess. "Why did these guys have to come and get me now?" Peter thought. "These guys are still trying to ruin my life. Well, if I'm going to get caught anyway, I should just kill them." Just then, Peter managed to catch Vorden walking up from behind them and then walking to the side. "Come on, Peter, are you ready or what?" Bones shouted as he was starting to get agitated. Vorden was now standing next to them. He started to perform certain moves, and earth pillars and walls were created as he performed these moves. "Does he want me to copy him?" Peter thought, but just as he was wondering, he felt a blunt object hit him in the stomach. When he looked down at what had hit him, he noticed it was an earth pillar. "I don't have all day, you little twerp," Bones shouted. Peter was surprised at how little the attack had hurt, but knowing the others would expect a reaction, he held his hands around his stomach and started to hurl forward. Peter then looked at Bones and started to copy each action Vorden was doing. First was a step on the ground. An earth wall was then lifted from the floor. Vorden made sure to create a small one, trying to mimic a level 2 user. Peter then threw out his palm, imitating Vorden, and the earth wall formed a worm-like shape. "Is that enough for you?" Peter asked. An earth pole was formed into Bones' hand, and he whacked Peter right across the face, leaving a large red mark. "That's for wasting my time. If you did that in the first place, we could have gone home already," Bones said as he started to walk away from the others. "Peter, make sure you reach level 4 in time, or else." As the three were leaving, Peter could do nothing but watch them go. He hated the fact that even though he now had the chance to fight them, he had to hide that fact. Once classes were over for the day, Vorden and Peter met up together in the library. "Okay, so, do you remember the plan?" Vorden asked. "Tonight, I want to try to get all 3 of those regenerative ability users. There are 3 places where we can most likely get them. At dinner, we can follow them just outside their dorm room or before they return to their homeroom classes. All we have to do is convince each student and lead them to Fex's room to deal with the rest." "What about the other?" Peter asked. "If I'm not satisfied after these, then does that mean we're going to have to kill more?" "We will leave that to Quinn." Logan had heard everything. After hearing what Peter and Vorden had said, Logan felt like he needed more information before coming to a logical conclusion. The words that stuck out most to him during the conversation were, "kill again." Logan then proceeded to log on to his computer and started to access the school servers. A few moments later, he was into the school system. Since the new school semester started, there were a total of 2 students dead that had been reported, one named Brandon and the other named Earl. When looking at the files, he also noticed that 2 students had been brought in for questioning, and one of them for both cases, Quinn. Vorden had caught up with Quinn and given him information on his target, saying what homeroom class they were from and also what combat classes they would attend. Quinn had gone to one of the homeroom classes to find his target. Vorden had gone to wait outside the dorm area, and lastly, Peter to the canteen. As Quinn walked down the hallway where the students were just outside their homeroom, Quinn quickly tapped the student on the shoulder. "What is it?" the student said, half annoyed as he turned, but he quickly changed his tone. "Oh, sorry, how can I help you?" he said with blush marks underneath his cheeks. He had never seen a student so handsome before. It was as if something was drawing him in. "Influence skill activated. Influence skill successful. Follow a few feet behind me. Don't say anything to anyone, understand?" The student nodded and continued to follow Quinn. Vorden found it quite easy to convince his student to do as asked after showing him his watch, threatening to beat the person if he didn't comply, and then finally, it was Peter's turn. "I'm here to deliver a message," Peter said. "General Duke has asked me to take you to him at this moment." The student agreed to leave his friends and follow Peter. It was all going well for Peter so far. The student was following and asking him what the general wanted to see him about. Whenever he asked, Peter would reply, saying the general would never tell a low-level like him information about why. However, the problem started to occur when the student realized that Peter wasn't leading them to an office, but instead toward the dorm rooms. "Where are you taking me?" he asked. "Oh, I just need to grab a few things from my room first that I forgot," Peter replied. "I thought you said it was urgent. Is there a problem here?" a voice said. As the student turned around, he could see a black-haired student he didn't recognize, and suddenly his eyes lit up red. "Head over to room 224 and wait there," Fex commanded.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.